Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I love getting together here from time to time with different people of different occupations. And I've never talked to anybody who does what she does. She is a lead investigator. Yes, a private investigator with Blackman Detective Services in North Carolina. What is that like? What do they deal with? How can it benefit you, especially in North Carolina or anywhere in the country that could help you out through referral services? Jamie Mitchell is with us. Hi, Jamie. How you doing?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Oh my gosh, so many questions for you. I have to imagine that one of the top categories, if you will, of what you do involves marital situations. Would I be right about that?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Domestic and custody situations are probably number one. That and crime. So.
That and what was that? That and
crime.
Yeah. Okay. So let's center for the moment on relationships. So somebody suspects another in a marriage is being unfaithful. They would call upon your services. You would do an investigation. Walk us through that. How long typically is that investigation? I know every situation is different. Every expectation is different. Somebody, I guess they could say, I want 6 months of proof, but whatever it is, walk us through that, how that all goes.
So we meet with the client either by phone or in the office, kind of what's best and where everybody is. We kind of talk about the situation, figure out what their goals are, figure out if they want to actually divorce or do you just want to catch this person. A lot of times people just want the knowledge, right? They're quite not ready to make the next step, but they want to know what they're dealing with. We talk to them, figure out what's going on, set up a plan. And usually probably not, well, I haven't had too many people probably over my 10 years that have been wrong about that. So usually when you have that gut feeling, you kind of want to go with it and at least see what's going on. Sometimes it might not be cheating, but it might be something that you don't know about or not comfortable with. And they're, maybe trying to hide that from you as well. So
what does the client in that situation ultimately end up with in terms of proof?
So we provide you with video, photo evidence. Everything is time, date stamped. You get a report and detailed invoice. So everything is ready to go to court, go to your attorney, cease and desist letters, whatever you need. So it's certainly not helpful for an investigator to tell you what happened and then have no proof to give you at the end of the day. So, yep.
When we talk about that proof, video certainly can be shot legally with no issues. What about phone conversations?
Phone conversation. We are a one-party state. North Carolina is. So any conversation that we are involved in, of course, we can record. If we are doing surveillance on, a couple or a situation, they must be out in public where we could hear them, with our ear. You can't stick a bug in somebody's car or stick a bug on a person, which, in a bag or something like that, and use that information in court. That is not going to be admissible.
Maybe it can't be used in court, but just to have it would be.
Yeah, I always, I do sometimes tell my clients, if you overhear conversations, you can definitely use it for intel, give you a lead on kind of where we need to go, direct the investigator, but it's not something your attorneys don't want to hear it. And you certainly can't use it in court. So we try to make sure. I'm really kind of a stickler on the rules and making sure that we're providing evidence that can be used in court. Because it's a rabbit hole, right? Whenever you're just gathering all this information, I kind of want to have an end goal. So,
and when it comes to divorce cases, it's really not, as far as I know, admissible. It's all about the assets. It's really for you knowing what's going on. If something is going on, there could be some plays within court, but essentially they're not listening to, somebody cheating when it's a divorce case.
No. It's all going to be visual things. It's going to be signs of affection, opportunities. If you're over somebody's house late hours for more than like 20 minutes, opportunity, intent, and affection are the things that we're looking for in North Carolina to determine if that relationship is inappropriate being that you're married.
When it comes to custody cases, how does a private investigator help with those?
Conditions, living conditions of the child. So, what is
Mm,
mom and dad doing with the kid while they have them? Are we in the house the whole time, not seeing the sunshine? Are we not participating in any activities to make sure that this child is going to be a well-rounded child? Sometimes the differences in parenting are like night and day. You know, one parent wants the kid and everything, and the other parent's like, no, I think I know what's best for the kid, and we're just going to hang out and watch TV all day. So, between that and potential like drinking and driving, a lot of times parents will go to events or to the beach or wherever alcohol is involved. And then you're either driving the children or just not being really responsible at the time. And so it's usually living conditions with the child or people that the other parent is dating that could be
mm,
for the child in some way. So are they living with a sex offender? Are they, dealing with
yeah.
somebody whose children have been taken away from them from CPS for whatever reason it may be. So you want to make sure, that your kid is in as safe of a place as possible if they're not with you.
Wow. Um, all confidential here, but I'm wondering, has there been, Jamie, some very unusual cases that you were involved in, asked to look into, or maybe something you found out that you weren't or the client maybe wasn't expecting?
Oh my gosh, yes, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, which one could I think of? Probably a small story time. One of my favorite case, not really it's a favorite case because I think it's crazy, but client probably didn't think it was that great. But he had been getting extorted for about 80 or $90,000 from a woman that told him that, they had had a one night stand and she had a baby. Well, after doing some research, this woman was not a woman, and there was no way that she could have had his baby. And so,
But what did I, whoa, whoa, whoa. It turns out that this woman was not a woman.
yeah,
And the person that hired you did not know that.
I did not know that. Whatever happened, I'm not quite sure. You know, Probably would be too much info to, share, but he did not know. And this person was claiming that they had a child with him. And like, 4 or 5 years later, he decided that I don't want to keep being in the dark about this. I would like to know if I do have a child, what is going on, and come to find out there was no child. There was no child, and it was not possible that he could have had a child with this person. So we were able to provide that information to him. A lot of times, and it's kind of it's harassment ish, right? It's on the line. You've obviously participated in something at some point, which everybody was on board with, and now it's kind of come to bite you. And so what we do in those situations is help to identify the truth, figure out what's actually going on, and then you can hire an attorney, or we can connect you with an attorney that will write like a cease and desist letter that you can send to that person. And basically, if they continue on, you could sue them civilly or, whatever. So you just want it
Hmm.
to stop. They usually don't really want to go to court, but enough to scare the person off. So
I
that's
in that paternity case, if you will, I'm not going to even ask how you found out what you found out. We're just let that go. That's not needed.
good. We're
Just
good at our job. This is what we do. Absolutely. I have swabbed babies before, so I am not against doing a DNA test. It's okay. It's okay. I've got Q-tips in my trunk if I need to.
wow. How did you get in? And this is, or let's be honest, more of a male-dominated industry.
Right.
And, private investigators. How did you get involved? Well, your journey. Tell us.
Well, God gave me my job. I had gone through a really tough life change, and was looking for my next steps in work. And I had a son, and I needed to kind of be, flexible because, he was maybe 9 or 10 at the time. And ran into somebody doing networking. If anybody, plug in BNI networking.
Sure.
But I met my former boss at BNI, and we
Wow.
connected, and we just worked out really well, and I loved it, and I pretty much stuck to him like glue for about 3 or 4 years, and he taught me everything I know now, and I've just been able to use. So I've always been a people watcher. I waited tables, did the service industry. I was a lifeguard for many years, so I have always watched people. People fascinate me, just how we operate in general, and so it just worked for me. And so,
Hmm.
like I said, God blessed me with the opportunity, and here we are now.
So cool. Would you say that you could almost be a profiler?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a friend and he's like that. He's always looking. He goes, yeah, he'll be looking at me in the eye. He goes, yeah, that guy over there wearing the hat, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what guy? Oh, he's already checked him out. And he has in his mind different things that he believes in people, the way their eyes move and all of that. I don't know if it's true, but he thinks he could be a profiler. But I'm sure the way you look at people, right?
Probably. I mean, once you see the dirt from so many different people, you start to look at people in a more realistic eye. And some of the things that maybe make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, there's probably some truth to that. Now, depending on how, involved you want to be with the person, is your choice. But yeah, I'm definitely very aware of what's around me.
I got you. Yeah, and it's interesting. When I was like 22, I got jumped, got into a fight, ridiculous situation, and ever since then, I'm on guard. Not like freak mode, but it's always like I'm watching. Just what's going on. That's it. Just being because I feel I wasn't so aware back then, and there's nothing wrong with just knowing your surroundings and what's going on around you.
Right, absolutely. You'd be crazy not to know, especially the way our world is right now. You better keep your head on the swivel.
The swivel, love that. How about some other cases? Who would hire you? What other situations? And we talked about paternity, marriage, infidelity, custody, other situations we might not think of.
So we do a lot of work for attorneys. So
Mm.
we do a lot of like locates and process service. So if they are, I mean, looking for somebody that was in an accident or somebody that was a witness of an accident,
Wow.
we help those people locate them, find them for whatever the reason is, interview them, report that information back. We also do personal injury work. So folks that are supposed to be hurt due to, car accident, whatever. We do a lot of surveillance on those to see if these people are actually as injured as they say they are, or, sometimes, I mean, you'd be amazed. People collect checks for stuff like this for like 20 years. And, every so often, the client wants to go in and see, are they still hurt? Are they still, if they had a traumatic brain injury, are you out at the beach on the
Right.
boat, or
On
are
the roof.
right, not supposed to be on the roof. You're
Mm.
definitely not supposed to be on the roof. But between that and like workers' comp, so as a business owner, a lot of times they want to do their own investigations prior to getting the insurance company involved. If you can get some evidence that it's helpful, a lot of times you
Wow.
don't even have to file through the insurance company, and that will just be gone and out the way, and it doesn't affect your premiums or anything like that. So
Interesting.
yeah, and then criminal cases. We love criminal cases. So we work with indigent services for North Carolina, and anybody who has a court-appointed attorney, depending on if it's capital or non-capital, just the level of crime, they are entitled to have an investigator as well. And so our job in that space would be to locate folks that maybe the police didn't locate, maybe find holes in the police investigation, locate things and or people that would help provide a better defense for our client. And we usually only work for the defense side. We don't do a lot, of course, on the prosecution side because they have the police.
Have you ever been in a situation where you had fear? Maybe you're watching something, investigating something, and then something happens, or you have maybe I shouldn't be here at this moment. Any of that ever come up for you?
Yes. Okay. So two small stories. Usually I always tell my investigators, if you feel like you're in an unsafe place, leave. Nobody's life is nobody's case is worth your life, right? Nobody cares about cheating if you're dead. So that, none of that matters. But I have served papers before, and the gentleman pulled a knife out on me. And we were actually at the police station. So that, just because you're around law enforcement means nothing at times.
Wow.
So, but you just have to keep your cool. You got to use all of your spidey senses and feelings, and just make sure that I stood strong. This is when I first started, so trust me, I was crying after we got done, because I was like, oh my gosh. But it was fine, it worked well. I served the papers. I completed my mission. But yeah, that's probably the only issue I've ever really had. Other than that, I try to fit the case with the best investigator. So we have many people that work with us, all colors, all kinds, right? And so we want to be able to blend in with the situation. We want to be able to not stand out. Don't draw attention to yourself. You want to just blend in and be a part of the everyday of what's going around. So if I have anybody that feels uncomfortable, we just kind of get out there and regroup and come back with a better plan. So we're usually okay. I've not had anything crazy.
How do you figure out compensation? Is it hourly? Wouldn't even know to start on that.
Right. So both. We are, for our surveillance rates, we are hourly. So we charge per hour and per mile. If we are doing research, we kind of a la carte it. So depending on what you need, we can kind of tailor your, price to, what you need. Sometimes you don't need all that stuff. You just need like the basics. You don't need like a full deep dive on somebody. But if you had somebody maybe you're trying to go into business with, that would be a little bit more expensive, right? Because we need to be checking certain assets and make sure that like there's nothing negative against that person. And sometimes that takes a little bit more deep diving.
Wow.
One A lot of people feel like we're Garcia from, CSI. We're not Garcia. The information that we are finding is public information. So it's our job to go and find it. A lot of times it takes a lot of phone calls and emails and, digging here and there to try to find what we're looking for. But based on how much time we put into it is kind of how we charge the client. And they know that upfront.
In
Sorry.
terms of that public information, what can you find? Like, for example, go hypothetical. Let's say your ex is with somebody now, and you question whether they're safe around your kids for whatever reason. What information can you get?
So we are going to confirm who they are. We can confirm with like a social security verification that we have the right person. We're not turning over that information to anybody, but we are making sure that, yes, this is the person they say they are, and no, they are not on the sex offenders registry, right? Other than that, we can pull criminal reports. So any criminal report is considered public information, whether it's local or national. Any properties, civil records, anytime you have had like child support or CPS cases, all of that stuff has to go through the court at some point. Sometimes a lot of things are more difficult to find than others. You might have to figure out who the other party is and kind of stuff like that. But if we've been doing like Blackman's been around since '93.
Wow.
We have, my office researcher has 20 years of experience. So she knows where to go to find certain things. And, we enjoy the work. So it's very satisfying when you find the needle in the haystack.
How does that feel for you? Let's say you've been hired, somebody suspects infidelity, you're there. I'm going to go with you now. I know that you have other investigators, but you're there.
I love
You
kid
know,
work.
a few days have gone by. You're staking a place out. I don't know if I'm using the right terminology here. If it's a stakeout, um, too much TV, and there he is. That the suspect or the person that could be doing the cheating comes walking out of somebody's apartment, and they kiss and they embrace, and you have it recorded. How does that feel for you, knowing that I'm bringing this back and I'm bringing potentially closure or the information that somebody suspected is true?
Right. Oh, so in-house, I'm thrilled. I am ecstatic that we have, and that person that is the person who they are cheating with is called the paramour. So, once we find the paramour and identify who they are, we've seen it. I mean, I feel excellent. I mean,
Yeah.
this is what we came to do. People put their hard-earned dollars into, investigation, and you want to come out with the answer. Most of the time, it's not necessarily what the client wants to hear. It's not going to make them feel good, but knowledge is power, and understanding what's happened and where that puts you in your personal situation is power. I mean,
Sure.
so most of the time people are lying, not being honest at all. And
Yep.
so the spouse is kind of just trying to figure out what is real and what's not. And so when you can bring that information to them and say, yes, you were not tripping, your spidey senses were completely on point.
Yep.
I mean, I do a lot of like, I'm sorry, yes, people are terrible, get get a therapist, whatever you need to do to like process this information, but you need to know it. And that information is going to help you move forward with next steps. So North Carolina is also one of those states where you have to split everything 50-50, no matter what. And so you do have documentation of infidelity that helps with alimony, spousal support, kind of all that
Does
stuff.
it if there's proof
Yeah, you
of
can prove alimony. Yeah, and of course the person who is cheating makes the majority of the money, then they usually have to kick out a lot.
Sure.
Sometimes alimony is just set based on how many years you've been married and like what everybody comes up with. And yes, we feel like this is fair, but if you have proof of infidelity, you can, up your game. I need this by this time. And, most of the time it works if they don't know that you know what you know, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
then you get into court and they're like, who are these random people here? And then, we get on the stand and, and we're a private investigator, ghost white, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh Lord, what do they know that I didn't even know that they knew? And if you get all the way to court and you get, that becomes your story, then you're pretty much done. You don't get anything.
As uncomfortable as it can be to deliver that information, you didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
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 It's the wrongdoing of somebody else. You just happen to be at, the corner and happen to be looking in that direction. It could be anybody else. You just happen to have been hired and have a device to record what's going on there. And that's that. And more power to people that catch a cheater, because that's the knowledge is power. 100% agree with you. And you can't put a price on that. At least the closure of knowing what's going on, in a relationship. And again, that's just a piece of what you offer. How do we find your firm?
Okay, so you can Google us, Blackman Detective Services. We are located in Central Raleigh in North Hills. So that's the Midtown area. You can find us online at blackmanpi.com. And we also have a podcast that's called The Sleuth that you can, we give all our stuff through there, but we're on all the socials, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and, just give us a call. We've had the same number for 30 years. So it gets to us. Yep.
Great talking with you. It was almost like watching TV in my mind, going through these situations. We'll never forget the paternity one. Classic story. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Jamie, thanks so much for being here today. Really appreciated it. And looking forward, maybe we get a chance to talk again.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Thank you. And you have a great day.
You too. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.